there still has not been an attack. Okay. I mean, I'm grateful for that, actually. Okay. This is Nicole Jansizian from Jerusalem, and I am just here jumping on really quick and probably briefly to bring you the latest, because there's a lot going on. It just has nothing to do what we were talking about a week ago, 2 weeks ago, about wars and rumors of wars. Will the U.S. attack Iran? And then now, of course, you have instead that the U.S. is negotiating suddenly about nuclear. Who knew? They're talking about a nuclear deal with Iran, which was like not even on the cards over a month ago. So, but what is happening instead? And by the way, I'm going to have to keep this brief because I have a raging teenager somewhere lurking in the house. I've got rice on the stove, and I've got another one that's probably he forgot his keys and will be showing up at any minute. So anyway, I'm going to talk fast. Okay, so like I set the stage for the no war. Okay, so we're not under attack, nothing's happening. But what is happening today, I mean, it's never a dull moment. Today, 2 female soldiers in a religious Jewish neighborhood were attacked by a mob and chased out of the neighborhood. Police had to go in and rescue them. Or actually, I don't even know if it was police or civilians. It's like still breaking. But this is like, this is what's happening right now. This is the big news of today. If I could just like show you on the left side of the screen, is it your left as well? That one of the female soldiers was also religious. Like she was wearing a skirt, which would signify that she's religious. So, and of course, this is it's a religious neighborhood, ultra Orthodox neighborhood, and this is happening, when there's no war, there's civil war. This is Israel for you. When there's no war, there's civil war. So they are protesting almost nonstop against being recruited to the army. And when they saw soldiers show up, never mind that they were female, they were attacked. You see like this mob of people running. And you see like, I don't know if they're civilians or cops who are like taking the girls out. Like they've got them like covered and they're running out with them. So anyway, all right. So that's literally what's happening today. I couldn't believe it. I turned the TV on. I'm like, you're kidding me. This is the news. Okay. So there's a lot of other stuff going on. There's new land registration processes in the West Bank. So that is extremely controversial on the international stage. Definitely not controversial, obviously passed by the government, and this is what's, this is like a generally right-wing government. So this is something that they want. So what does that mean? That means it's going to make it easier for Jews to buy property in the West Bank. Now, the West Bank, otherwise known to Jews or to, some, many, whatever, as Judea Samaria. And if that happens, so what that does is, if Jews can easily buy property in the West Bank, it means that there will be less of a legal dispute than internationally. Now, internationally, the West Bank is still considered disputed territory. Wait, come with me. Forgot about the rice. So that will actually, let's call it done. Okay, so that will actually then have repercussions in international law and with Israel in general. Oh, it's so hot here. You wouldn't even believe it, guys. It's February and it's so hot here. So it's going to have international repercussions. Most people, most countries that are already like if they're against Israel, this will be another thing for them to fight against Israel, and they'll be very upset about that. Okay. But still, despite the fact that there are a lot of things going on, in the country, there is, as always, what is happening with Iran. So Netanyahu was just in the White House again last week. He was just there, and there wasn't much publicly, like they didn't do anything public after that. Oh wait, there was something. Oh my God, this is crazy. So after their meeting, President Trump berated the Israeli president for not pardoning Netanyahu from his current trial. So that, I mean, it was just like crazy interference in another country. But he, oh, I forgot the exact words that he used about President Herzog, but he said, how has he not given pardon to Netanyahu yet? So anyway, so there's a lot of like behind the scenes stuff cooking, and we don't know. We don't know. All we know is there are talks right now. I'm seeing some Iranians here on the screen right now. There are talks. They're suddenly in the nuclear direction, and as that goes on, in parallel, but nothing to do one with the other, right? Is that the U.S. military is building up, and so now their biggest ever, the largest aircraft carrier that the U.S. has is on its way to the Middle East. And I was just reading somewhere that that it actually went radio silent a couple weeks ago, so nobody knows where it actually is. But the announcement was that I think it's the Gerald Ford is on its way, and this person pointed out, well, actually, it could be here right now. So it looks like so you've got two things going on. You've got the U.S. saying, like Trump and Rubio, all of the main actors in the U.S. are saying, we're hoping talks work. We hope that the talks work. We hope to come to a great solution and a great deal. And then concurrently to that, you've got the U.S. military building up here in the Middle East. And so what does that mean? So is one a bluff of the other, or is the one the bluff of the other? I don't know. It's been well over, so I think it was January 8th that the internet was shut down in Iran. And so since then, we're getting very little. We're getting trickles of information of what's happening. But tens of thousands of Iranians have been killed by the regime. That we know for sure. We don't really know what's happening. There's still a lockdown on the internet and on the country in general. We're not getting information. Just a couple days ago, they celebrated, is it the 47th anniversary? It was like, the revolution. It was like the day that they celebrate the revolution. So that has happened. And on that day, the BBC, the British Broadcasting Corporation, did such a lovely report about how it's just like, it's like a family festival here where everybody's just celebrating the revolution. And I was like, well, that's something I expected the Iranian media, the state-run Iranian media, to say, not an alleged free press that is actually there right now, supposed to be reporting and supposed to be giving us accurate information. But no, family festival. Meanwhile, most families there are actually mourning their loved ones because they were executed by the regime for participating in or during participation in a protest over a month ago. Over a month ago, they were also promised by the American president that help is on the way, keep protesting, go out there, help is on the way. Nothing has happened. Now, there have been protests by Iranians and and people who are, they're protesting against the regime, but expat Iranians around the world were joined by tens of thousands of others in Munich, I believe in England and Canada and the US. Tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands perhaps have gone out to protest that they do want to see a change, that they want, most people are saying they want a regime change. Also, they're really pushing Reza Pahlavi as the person to take the place. So he's the crown prince. He's the son of the Shah, who was deposed in during the revolution. So anyway, all of this is swirling, and as you know, for the last couple of weeks, it's been like, oh, there's going to be an attack any minute now, any minute now. But everybody here has sort of let down their guard. Life is going on as normal. Nobody is really considering that, oh, there could be an attack today, because after having done that for weeks on end, people have already stopped talking about it. Like, it's getting a little ridiculous now. I remember during the height of the war between Israel and Hamas, which is in a pretty good phase, like a ceasefire right now. I mean, I should clarify, ceasefire. There's still fighting going on, but for the most part, you don't hear about it. But the ceasefire is holding despite the fire that is still going on. However, during the time when the fighting was very prominent and heavy, and there were still hostages, there were still Palestinian prisoners. During that time, we were always hearing of an imminent deal. A deal is imminent. Ceasefire is imminent. And it got to the point where the word imminent lost its power. It was just like, imminent didn't mean imminent anymore. It lost all sorts of meaning. And I would say that also that is exactly what is happening now. Tensions are escalating in Iran. Tensions with Iran, escalating tensions, ? Escalating tensions, ! We're doing variations on a theme, and yet we are losing the meanings of these words. Tensions, very important. Escalation, extremely important. And yet nobody cares anymore, because the media has overused the word, beaten it to death, kept people glued to the TV. I know so many people now who are news junkies, and they don't want to watch the news anymore because they don't want to hear anymore that tensions are escalating with Iran, and yet nothing happens. And they're kind of tired and living in panic. Now, people are concerned, but I think many people said, okay, enough with the panic. Things aren't imminent and tensions aren't escalating. So anyway, that's the main news here. I want to tell you about JD Vance's visit. I'm going to get to your comments in a second as well. But JD Vance was just in Armenia and Azerbaijan. And what is significant about that? I'll have to post for you guys a link to my article, because I, of course, was very interested, because I'm very biased when it comes to Armenia and like the news in Armenia. But so JD Vance became the first American vice president. Never a vice president has gone to Armenia. So it was extremely significant. And the question is why? And then after that, by the way, he went to Azerbaijan. Of course, it was to shore up the deal that Trump got started back in August between Armenia and Azerbaijan. And part of that includes something I've talked a lot about on this channel. Hold on. Is that he wants to reinforce the Trump route for international peace and prosperity, which is like this corridor, which was always like under it's southern Armenia, but it would connect Azerbaijan to an enclave of Azerbaijan and then Turkey. But because the two nations haven't had good relations, there was no connection. So anyway, Trump made this connection. So very interesting. You got to look at like Trump, how like he does deals, because he doesn't do deals like a politician. So he looked at it, and I think he looked at this and he said, okay, so this 26 miles, which is only a marathon. It's like, imagine how short that is. He decided that if that is connected, it can connect Central Asia to Europe. So what does that mean? The oil and the resources from Central Asia can go directly to Europe, can bypass Russia. Nobody needs Russian oil. Nobody needs Russian resources. Nobody needs Russian permission. Now, at the same time, it also like cuts off Iran, because Armenia and Azerbaijan are just north of Iran. So it's like the US saying like, hey, here we are. Here's our thumbprint right here in the region. And they hadn't been there before. And by the way, he's doing the same thing in Syria, which is why the Kurds were just slaughtered without any, objection by the Americans. And also, because there's oil there, by the way. But also, so it's like he's got access in Syria and he's got access now in the Caucasus. Those are two places that America didn't really have a strong presence. So it's very interesting. Okay, so I just want to read a few comments because, like I said, I got to keep this short before teenagers start coming out of their rooms. Okay, so Yael says that Bibi declared that the 7th was not a massacre, that October 7th was not a massacre. Was it actually Bibi or was it Mickey Zohar, or like who is also from the Likud? Well, either way, Israelis are raging about that because I didn't see about Bibi, but I saw Mickey Zohar said, we don't want to call it a massacre because then it makes us look weak or something like that. So anyway, there was a rage about that. And then somebody else is commenting, I think it's Lisa, that people are killed every day in Gaza. And yes, and many Palestinians, but I don't know if it's Palestinians that were from the Gaza war. I think I know many Palestinians are still in Israeli jails, but they didn't promise to clear out the jails. They only promised to clear out the ones like specific that were arrested. And if I am mistaken, I will check on that to see if they haven't released the Palestinians that were supposed to be released in this deal. I don't know about that, but yes, people are killed every day in Gaza. Now that is, there are still clashes going on between Israel and Hamas and other, like whoever in Gaza. Like I can't say it's always Hamas, but also Hamas is having also some clashes. Again, I don't know if it's a lot. I don't know how to quantify or contextualize the number of who they're going up against and how much. But there are other militias. There is some discontent, but Hamas is pretty much back in control in Gaza. Now, what is going to happen in Gaza next is it looks like there is, Trump is really building up this board of peace that he wants going on, which is going to be, there's first of all going to be like a civil administration and then like a military / infrastructure board that goes in. So the civil administration is, well, there's a board of peace, and then there are actually Palestinian technocrats and politicians that are going to run it. Run Gaza, like govern Gaza under this board of peace, which is comprised of several countries. Israel's also on it. But it doesn't mean they're going to govern. Like the board of peace is not going to be governing. Okay, Lisa says, I think your name's Lisa, sorry, but there are still doctors. Okay, I'll check. I'm going to check into that. I didn't know about that. And then the other, then there's also going to be troops, and the troops are going to be comprised of like other countries. Like, so far, Indonesia wants to put 8,000 troops on the ground in Gaza. And so what will they be tasked with? Now, the whole point right now is to demilitarize Hamas. Hamas has said, we're not giving up our weapons. So we'll see how this ends up. They still have weapons. Oh, and in fact, I did a story a couple weeks ago, about drones that are coming in from Egypt. Now it's not Hamas and it's not going into Gaza, but drones from Egypt are flying in weapons. Now, it's not Egypt, like the Egyptian military or the Egyptian government, but it's like networks of smugglers are smuggling weapons and drugs into Israel on drones. And they're extremely difficult to catch because the border is, it's this desert land border. So, oh, wait. All right. At some point, talk about how little aid is entering and also about how the numbers of crossings at, um, I don't know what Rata Gate, but do you mean in the Rafah crossing are low, not as promised? Yes, this is still a concern. And I have to check the numbers on that. So I'll do another one on that because honestly, I don't have the numbers. This was not my focus in the last couple of days, so I don't have the numbers. So I don't want to just randomly quote. But definitely, this is the controversy now. Of course, Israel will say that there is plenty of aid going through. They said that the whole war. So, but let me check what actually the numbers are and what's happening with the crossings. Of course, I mean, people are still living in tents. That is for sure, and it's winter. And so, anyway, that's until housing is built. I think we're talking not months, we're talking years. The devastation is apocalyptic, and 40, I think it's 50% of the Gaza Strip, which was 20, I think it's like a 26 mile, again I'm going with the number 26 long and a couple miles wide. If 50% is in Israeli hands, and 2 million people are now in a smaller pocket, and anyway, and many without housing, hundreds of thousands. So anyway, it's obviously still a huge humanitarian issue. Let's put it this way: even if aid's getting in, people are still living in tents. So it's not a it's still a bad situation. Okay, about the drones though, this is still going on, and it has actually nothing to do with Hamas and Gaza, and they're just getting in, and extremely hard for the military to track. And also, by the time a drone lands, if they can, whoever is responding, first responders, police, military, usually doesn't get there before the smugglers on the Israel side of the border. So it's pretty insane that that's still going on. So, all right. Anyway, my time is up. Thank you very much for joining. And I love your questions and comments, and I will try to respond to them in the next one. So thank you all, and I will catch you next time. War or rumors of war.